Hello and welcome. This is Captain Aquarius, coming to you on September 3rd, 2017, with a few announcements about Aquarian Airlines Flight 96, soon to depart from Pisac, Peru, to Istanbul, Turkey. Aquarian Air's principal hub for the next 4 to 6 months will be the beloved town in the Andes Mountains near Cusco, where I've been based for 8 years now. Why are we flying to Istanbul this week and to Berlin at the Virgo Black Moon on September 20th? Because as Germany prepares for its next national elections on September 24th, more on this in our next post, there is increasing confabulation, controversy, and steaming hot acidic nastiness within the arena of German politics, and especially in the strident attacks that Turkish President Recep Erdogan has been launching against not only Chancellor Angela Merkel, but all German political parties. Why has Erdogan been urging all German citizens of Turkish descent to boycott the election? Mainly in the superficial terms that media prefer to spin and sizzle, because Germany will not extradite some 400 military officers and other Turks who were involved in last year's failed coup against Erdogan. Also because of the usual tricks that an inept and insecure leader pulls when his hold on power is shaky and he wants to shore up his position by stoking hatred of an external enemy. Add to this the reactive rhetoric that the opposing leader, also insecure, pulls when she is under fierce attack too. It comes at a time when more and more of the world is starting to see through the toxic essence of classic capitalist countries who, like capitalists in general, respond to the agony of others by finding ways to extract more money from them, as Germany did in response to the Greek debt crisis. One does not have to be an economic genius like former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis to see what unforeseeable consequences all of this bitterness will have for the 2.7 to 3 million Almanya Türkeri, or German citizens of Turkish extraction, who are now in the limelight and the crosshairs. Some are proclaiming their Deutschheit, if this may be a legitimate word for Germanness. Others are aligning themselves in support of Erdogan or against him, while others, such as the ones shown here, like their counterparts in Charlottesville, Virginia, relish behaving with all the public relations instincts of Jack the Ripper. How does all of this passionate befuddlement show in the chart you see here, cast for Istanbul at 10:02 a.m. on September 6th? The best way to get our bearings here, as always at a full moon, is to notice the Virgo sun in the 11th house of friendship, community, social activity, and social activism, exactly opposite the Pisces moon in the 5th house of creativity, play, and love affairs. The key element in this chart is Neptune, who is conjunct the moon and opposite the sun, so that we are likely to see this week, and continuing through the month, the usual effects that Neptune displays when he is afflicted by the two great lights. Expect perverse victimhood, self-deception, and proneness to being fooled by others at night, with widespread outbreaks toward morning of lurid gossip and scandal, moodiness and mopey inconstancy, a vivid imagination about idealistic plans without any ability to get them into practical motion, and so much mendacity that I.F. Stone, who said, "Governments lie," would have dropped his jaw all the way to his waist if he were still here to see what will be said this month. Back to the chart. What makes Neptune an especially active player now, and the reason why we'll soon take a closer look at him, is that even after the moon and sun will have moved ahead in the next few days and out of relationship with Neptune, the three planets we see in the 10th house, in Leo and Virgo, that is, everything except the horseshoe-shaped moon's node, will move ahead through the early degrees of Virgo, until they also oppose Neptune as the Sun does this week. Mercury, moving forward out of the fractious conjunction with Mars that he's in now, opposes Neptune from September 19th through the black moon and the equinox. Mars opposes Neptune a few days later, so we are likely to see some furiously aggressive moves by people who can't quite seem to keep their shoelaces tied. And at the end of September, Venus opposes Neptune, so that when all other follies and illusions fail, there's still our old friend, the headlong dive into romantic love, so deep that we may lose ourselves completely in the other and struggle to find the surface of the water again. More important than this, though, is the deeper dimension of Venus, who is, beyond her outer image as the goddess of love and sex, art and beauty, money and diamonds, the power of attraction. When Neptune opposes her, there can be a lack of motivation, weak desire, and foggy, flaccid pursuit of unrealizable aims, and the sour grapes posture of convincing oneself that goals that are hard to accomplish were not worth the effort. All of this wankery and passivity can rebound toward force and fire in early October, when Venus and Mars will be past their Neptune oppositions and in a hot, active conjunction with each other. But from the equinox to the end of September, life is apt to feel, figuratively if not in literal fact, like stoned sex with an untruthful partner on a waterbed that hasn't been drained and refilled for much too long, so the water is full of old, uneasy emotions and pale, reactive resignations. It's time to understand Neptune better, for our collective purposes and the Neptune positions and transits that can affect each and every one of us. Lord of the inner and outer sea. He is the second farthest planet from the Sun, with an orbit of 165 years. Neptune was discovered in 1846, when the British Navy ruled the world and got rich on opium trade, and the new Baha'i faith taught the unity and value of all religions. All of these elements, the water, the altered states of consciousness, and the inclusive mystical vision, are central to the mythic identity of Neptune and the sign of Pisces that he rules, along with the 12th house of the astrology chart. There's a good reason why the two fishes that symbolize Pisces are usually shown swimming in opposite directions. Pisces is the most dualistic of all signs, Neptune the most dualistic of all planets, thus the appropriate ruler for the age of Pisces and its main ruling spiritual paradigms, Christianity, Islam, and Marxism. The last of these, emphatically materialist and viewing spirituality in very Piscean terms as the opiate of the people, may seem at first an odd match with the others, yet in its dialectical rhythm that Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel wrote about and Karl Marx turned into dialectical materialism, that is, the positive new synthesis opposed by an antithesis, the two engendering a synthesis that becomes the next new thesis, Marxism is Piscean and Neptunian duality at its most fluid and assertive. Neptune is not so much the opponent as the evader of structure and intellect. As ruler of the sign and house of spirituality, mystical consciousness, secrets and shadows, dream and psychic states, Neptune is the dissolver of boundaries. He rules intuition, imagination, and empathy, the fantasy-related arts of music, theater, and dance, and all altered states of perception and consciousness. There's the unavoidable rub, as Neptune can also be a slippery ride in the opposite direction from clarity and honesty. Besides ruling all, quote, positive states of altered consciousness, from meditation to theta and other deeper brain states, to psychic receptivity, to psychedelic and shamanic journeys, Neptune also rules alcohol, tobacco, weed, and all the extremes of fantasy, including impossible dreams, fraud, self-delusion and deception by others, victimhood and addiction, not only to substances, but to bozotic beliefs and murky memories. Afflicted Neptune can bring a lack of focus, clarity, and motivation, vivid and disturbing dreams, and irregular sleep, and illnesses related to the endocrine system and the feet. So if you're one of the many spiritually active people who've been experiencing lethargy and lack of motivation, who've been sleeping long and feeling that no amount of rest seems to bring recharge, who've been so weirdly ditzy that you could forget to take your nose with you when you leave your house if it weren't firmly fastened to your face, then you may be directly affected by Neptune transits to one or more of the planets in your birth chart. Or you may be, at the very least, generally affected, as we all are, by all facets and dimensions of the Neptunian experience, as we're in the twilight of the age of Pisces, some of us wanting to hold our favorites of bliss and beauty a little longer, others wanting to hang on to our tragedies, even as we see the last of those black sails vanishing below the horizon. It may help you to see how I'm experiencing Neptune now. It's here in my chart. Until I hit the age of 70, almost 3 years ago, I was better entertained, as Samuel Beckett put it, than I have been in the years from 2014 until now. Neptune is now at 11 degrees of Pisces, so he's located at the left of my chart, right below the bold ascendant line at 10 degrees of Pisces 28. As he keeps moving retrograde from now until November, he'll come to within 1 degree of my ascendant and 1 degree of exact opposition to my descendant at the right of the chart. It is scant wonder that alliances do not seem to take solid form and hold fast. The world can appear at times to be little more than a lake of lies, and there is an almost irresistible appeal in the posture George Carlin held in his last years, of being observant and knowing what's going on, but giving up all emotional attachment to it. This does seem wise at a time when, as Yeats wrote, the worst are full of passionate intensity. The other relationships are easy to spot. Neptune is in a fading opposition to Mercury at 8 degrees Virgo 39 in the 6th house of health and service relationships, and is in closer opposition now to Jupiter in the 7th at 10 degrees of Virgo 53. Neptune is at the 150-degree angle we call a quincunx, or an inconjunct, with Mars in the 7th at 10 degrees of Libra 59. Next year, all year, he'll be in a 90-degree square to Uranus in Gemini in the 3rd, and another quincunx, this time with Venus in the 7th at 13 degrees of Libra 37. We won't go into the implications of all of these. A few anecdotes will be enough to deliver the waterlogged Neptunian goods. As Jupiter is the planet of institutions of authority and law, and of travel too, you can imagine what can happen both positively and negatively when Neptune opposes him, as it did on my recent travels. In Hamburg, I left my wallet on the conveyor belt at a supermarket, then stopped for dinner at a winery nearby, only to find my wallet missing. The winery owner thought I was a liar, trying to scam him for a free meal, and he proved to be such a Schweinkopf, that is, so pig-headed, that he refused my offer to leave my backpack and passport with him until I could retrieve my wallet and come back. He made a phone call that I thought was to the supermarket, but it was, in fact, to the police. 3 cops from Central Casting soon walked in. A woman crew chief who was all business and zero schmaltz. A skinny guy so goofy that it was hard to imagine him being hired by a police force anywhere. And a cool Turkish cop who knew at once I was telling the truth and taught me my German phrase for the day, Scheiß passiert, for shit happens. It all worked out easily. But it was classic Neptune at both ends. A misunderstanding that could have been resolved in minutes tied up 3 of Hamburg's finest Polizei for more than an hour, until the intuitive cop saw the problem and the solution at once. A similar thing happened in Madrid. I left my wallet in a taxi. The driver found my business card and emailed me, and I connected him with my Airbnb hostess, who sent my driver's license and Peruvian bank card to Body, Mind, and Soul in Houston, Texas, and would not keep any of the money in the wallet until I suggested she pay a reward to the driver and put the rest in a bank account for her 7-year-old son. So another ditzy Neptunian brain blip evoked the kindness and compassion of the taxista and my hostess, neither of whom would accept any money for themselves. It's all in character for Neptune, who is also the universal heart that embraces all in acceptance and compassion. This is why Venus is, quote, exalted in Pisces, for just as she is erotic, emotional love, Neptune is spiritual love, and always offers a solution if we are willing to look for it. Also in this week's full moon chart, and also in Pisces in the 5th house, Chiron the healer is in a tight 120-degree trine to the midheaven point at the top center of the chart, in the mother sign of Cancer. There are always loving, healing solutions to be found, if we can only cut through all the shouts and chatter and listen for them. Peace. And keep holding that frequency. This is Captain Aquarius, doing business again as Dan First, coming to you on September 3rd, 2017, from Pisac, Peru.